Imagine if the Supreme Court could not declare anything unconstitutional, and how much freedom that could give to the legislative and the executive. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about this anymore.
However, this is a reality until the historic benchmark of Marbury v. Madison, a Supreme Court case that paved the way for judicial review.
So one may ask, what is judicial review?
Judicial review is the power of the Supreme Court to review congressional laws, actions by state municipalities, and actions taken by the presidents. The court can then declare them unlawful if seen fit.
So why wasn't judicial review already given to the Supreme Court?
Let's go back to May 1787 during the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here in this historic gathering, the Constitution of the United States was debated and written over the Articles of Confederation, which proved to be extremely ineffective.
In this soon-to-be-in-effect government, the three branches were established: executive, legislative, and judicial.
The branch system was created to ensure balance, although, at the time, the judicial branch was considered to be the weakest, since there wasn't an explicit principle of judicial review.
So how did this power come into play?
Well, it all started when President John Adams was nearing the end of his term, and incoming President Thomas Jefferson was set to become president.
Since Jefferson was part of the Democratic-Republican Party and Adams was part of the Federalists, they never saw eye to eye politically because they were on opposite sides of the ballot.
So, at the very end of John Adams' term, he decided to appoint several dozen people from the Federalist Party to positions like the Circuit Judge and Justice of Peace. He thought this would help them and still have a lasting influence after leaving office.
Doing this would frustrate Jefferson and hinder his ability to implement his policies and ideas, which were different from Adams.
Because Adams had strong support from the Senate, they quickly confirmed his appointments before the end of his term.
But there was a problem. Adams' Secretary of State, John Marshall, was not able to deliver the commission to all the new judges before Jefferson's inauguration.
Because they were late, Jefferson thought that they were no longer good and ordered his Secretary of State, James Madison, not to have them delivered.
One of the commissions was supposed to go to William Marbury. When he had not received his commission, he filed a lawsuit that would force the court to issue a writ of mandamus from the Judiciary Act of 1789 that would force Madison to deliver his commission.
Although, this crossed some lines and had the justices thinking.
Could the court take up such duties for themselves constitutionally? The court ruled that it was illegal for Madison to refuse the delivery of the commission to Marbury.
During the case, the court examined the Judiciary Act that was passed and gave the Supreme Court far more jurisdiction during cases like Marbury's. During the examination, the court found out that the act had expanded the Supreme Court's jurisdiction to more than it was initially supposed to be in the Constitution.
Because of this, the court struck down the act as unconstitutional.
Congress could not modify the Constitution through their own legislation because the Supremacy Clause prioritized the Constitution before congressional laws.
In this holding, the principle of judicial review was established, and by striking down the law, the courts no longer had jurisdiction over the case.
In the end, the court ruled in a unanimous decision against Marbury, and he never got his commission, which likely pleased Jefferson.
So what does this mean for the future?
Well, the establishment of judicial review, or the power to struck down laws that are unconstitutional, will be used forever and on from this case.
This case gave immense power to the once thought meek judicial branch.
Thus, the creation of judicial review constructed a precedent that would be utilized by the many judges to come and essentially become the fighting force for civil rights and liberties for constitutionality.
Marbury v. Madison is widely considered to be one of the most important Supreme Court cases of all time.
Yes, that's right. Marbury v. Madison helped establish the Supreme Court and the judicial branch as an equal, yet separate branch of the U.S. government.
Exactly. By establishing judicial review, it allows the judicial branch to make sure that all laws are in line with the Constitution and that no law exceeds the power that it's supposed to have.
For example, if the Supreme Court saw that a law had too much power or was unconstitutional, they could strike down that law and deem it unlawful, making it no longer a law and in effect.
A time when judicial review has been used was in the case of Citizens United vs. FEC, where the justices decided that the freedom of speech clause of the First Amendment prevents the government from restricting independent expenditures for political campaigns by corporations. Thus, in striking down the law for being against constitutionality, the courts exhibited judicial review. In turn,
Marbury v. Madison created yet another check on the legislative and executive branches and greatly enhanced the power of the Supreme Court.